What's the history of Talmud Brilliant? How did it come into being? Like many things that come into being, it started with my own needs and frustrations. I had a problem I needed to solve, so I started researching how to solve it. After many years of learning Talmud, I still felt that I really did not understand how the Talmud worked. Its organization was a puzzle. The same questions persisted. Why did it sequence its investigation the way it did? On what basis did it pick one opinion over the other? These unknowns, among others, were holding me back. Too often, it seemed to me like an intellectual magic trick. Ideas, difficulties, and solutions to problems were being pulled out of a hat. My help came in the form of a book about the Talmud thinking process. It covered all the basic underlying principles and rules. The book explained that the thinking process of the Talmud is a natural process, meaning that it's the same thinking process that we all use every day to gain clarity, to be creative, and to make decisions. This was an incredible insight and very important to me. It meant that the fundamental basics of the Talmud thinking were not beyond my reach, because apparently my mind was already using them. It also meant that my everyday thinking could function as my thinking laboratory. The more I became aware of how I was processing information and making decisions, the more I became aware of those same processes in the Talmud. And the more I became aware of them in the Talmud, the more I began to integrate them in my everyday life. The two began to feed off each other. It was exciting. It had become fun. Learning Talmud went from a nerve-wracking challenge to an enjoyable adventure in thinking. I now understood the hows and the whys of it all. After moving from frustration to enjoyment, I decided I wanted to share my new understanding, my goodies, with anyone who was interested. The book, by the way, it was actually 3 little books by the same author, were written by Rabbi Moshe Chaim Luzzatto, who is commonly called by the acronym of his name, the Ramchal. He was a rabbi in Italy in the 18th century. He's famous for his books on character development and his books on the Kabbalah. His lesser-known books about mind development and its thinking process were initially written for his students in Amsterdam. The students were educated people, but they had no background in Talmud, so the Ramchal wrote for them concise manuals of the governing principles and the rules of Talmud. I have found that these books are the best on the subject ever written. They serve as a strong and sound foundation for everything that we teach here in Talmud Brilliant.